It's not too bad.
Yeah, you have a very nice setup. Do I put
It
this
actually
on?
looks better on camera than it even does in real life. So.
I actually just checked out the YouTube.
Oh, you did?
In there. I was like, I have to see.
See what I'm getting myself
Yeah.
into. Yeah, you'll put these on.
Okay.
And the key, you can hear us.
Is that you have to be close to your
very
mic.
close to the mic. Like,
Like Daphne
uncomfortably close.
Yeah, Daphne says uncomfortably close
That's
to
right.
the mic.
That's good. That's
Okay.
good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Incubator podcast. We are here with Daphne. Daphne, where are you coming from?
Hello, everyone.
You didn't give Daphne any warning. You just jumped right in.
That's right.
That's fine.
Surprise
That's
is
fine.
the best tool here.
Today, I'm coming from San Diego, but yesterday we flew in from Baltimore, and I'm originally Dutch, so I'm from the Netherlands.
Where in the Netherlands?
I'm from all the way up north in Groningen.
Oh,
It's very pretty. You should visit, definitely, if you have a chance.
of
someday.
course. Of course. Go ahead, Daphne.
Well, we were chatting earlier, and you were telling us all about the mentorship program through the NEC Society. So that's what we'd love to hear about first.
Yes, I was just coming over to say hi and say thank you because I listened to the podcast with Misty Good and Amy Hare a few weeks ago, which was very nice. And it came out right after I got matched through the NEC Society. They have a mentee-mentor program, and I got matched with Dr. Misty Good. And yeah, the podcast came out just before we had like a Zoom meeting, and I met her at the conference because she's here, and she's so lovely.
Yes.
And I'm doing my PhD at home, so I have my supervisors from there, but it's just very nice to have someone that doesn't know you that well to give you some career advice and also some research advice. And yeah, she's been amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like a great program. So it's matching all sorts of people, basic scientists, fellows, early career neonatologists, to kind of remote mentors in the area of NEC research. So tell us what you're studying.
Yeah, correct. So I'm studying risk factors for necrotizing enterocolitis and specifically epigenetic risk factors, which is why I got matched to Misty because that's also her area of expertise. And the idea is that we get together every once or maybe twice every 3 months. And then that would be 8, I think that the goal is 8 visits or 8 Zoom calls probably. To talk about our research and to give her outsider perspective on research, but also the overview or the bigger goal there is to make sure that the younger people are staying in NEC research. And I think, at least for me, it's working. She's been very convincing.
That's great. That's great.
Jen Canvasser was mentioning this morning that we all have to share the why of why we are attending the NEC Society Symposium, and I think you have some pretty good arguments already with your research work, but is there anything more significant by any chance of what the disease and what helping families mean to you?
That's a good question. So when I was introduced to necrotizing enterocolitis, I was introduced fully from a research perspective because I was still a med student, and my supervisor from at home in the Netherlands, he introduced me to the disease, and he basically told me the story of NEC, which is a very devastating disease and 40 years of research, and still nobody really knows why, which was a very powerful story. And as long as I've researched it, which is very short, like 3 or 4 years, I've only gathered more and more questions. So the disease is also very intriguing from a research perspective, because I feel like the more I know, the more I don't know. So that is my why, to keep learning more of what I don't know.
The questions keep you engaged, I
Yes,
guess.
definitely.
Very nice.
Well, it sounds like there are lots of opportunities then for people who are interested in getting involved with NEC research. Can you let us know how they can get connected with the mentorship program?
Yes, so how it worked for me is I joined the NEC Research Incubator program, which I think is just an email that you sign up for.
Great.
And then you get sent the newsletters, and I actually got into the menteeship program through Erin Pryor, who is one of the people who's part of the NEC Society. And then she set me up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Daphne, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, guys.
All
Have
right.
fun.
We'll talk to you later. Okay, I'm going to turn on the audio. John, thank you so much for dropping by. Tell the audience a little bit who you are and where you're coming from.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. I'm John Race. I work as a neonatologist at Stanford in Palo Alto.
Mm-hmm.
I flew out here this morning.
That's nice.
And I'm having a good time. I hope you guys are as well.
We are having a very good time.
That's good.
Especially by co-opting people to come and chat with us. So.
That's great.
Well, we've been asking people, what is their why? Why did you come to the NEC Symposium meeting?
Yeah, so a few reasons. One is my unit just rolled out probiotics for clinical purposes.
A hot topic.
Yes, it is. Just a few days ago, just last week. So it's fresh in everybody's minds, and I'm trying to understand it a little bit more, so that it can be kind of another tool, so to speak, in our arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably one of the big reasons. There's also kind of a few collaborators and mentors and friends that I haven't seen in a long time that I was hoping to see here. So those are kind of the two big reasons.
Networking and connection is a great reason to come back to live conferences. And to your point, tomorrow there's a great session on the microbiome, probiotics, and the prevention of NEC. So I think we'll all be
I will be there.
waiting and listening for that.
Yep.
What is your area of expertise or research?
Yeah, so I am interested in thinking more about omics, specifically metabolomics and lipidomics and the microbiome for acquired disorders of prematurity, specifically BPD and NEC. And then pairing that with some of the folks in the NeoMind AI group.
Yeah.
And looking at high-dimensional biologic data, but from a machine learning point of view. So I'm trying to kind of pair both of those things to say, right, hopefully something meaningful at some point about the disorders that we see commonly.
You mentioned earlier that your unit is rolling out probiotics for clinical purposes. How do you feel about that? Hopeful, maybe too hopeful?
I'm really hopeful.
Okay.
We unfortunately see a fair amount of NEC in our unit. Right, so I think a lot of the clinicians here, right, have kind of experiences that have been unfortunately seared in the back of their heads, and taking care of families with NEC. And so I'm very hopeful that there will be an immediate benefit that we see. Of course, it's going to take time, just right because NEC is is common enough that we all see it, but not terribly common that we see it necessarily every single day. But hopefully, in a short amount of time, we'll actually be able to see, a difference.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of buzz about probiotics, so you hear a lot about it. By the time, I think Jen is banging on something to tell people to come back. But you hear so much about it, and then it comes to your unit, and there's so much baggage with it that you're like, now we're going to actually get to see what the fuss is all about, and you always wonder whether you assume the data that's published can be generalizable, hopefully to your population, but you're never really sure. And so I think this is the anticipation that's kind of exciting. So this is cool that you're here for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, John, thank you so much for dropping by. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and we'll see you around.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We got him. We got him.
Do you guys have dinner plans for tonight?
Not really.
Come with us. We're going right here.
and we're live, so come on.
Literally, it's
Starbucks?
Come do this.
Starbucks, yeah. We're going to Starbucks. Dylan's Candy Factory. What am I doing?
We're live on Twitter.
Do people really want to hear from me?
Yeah.
I'm like, not that character.
Once the whole humble thing is out of the way,
That's right.
we are so glad to be joined by Shetal Shah. Shetal, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm so thrilled to be here. This conference is unlike anything I've ever been to. I'm sure you've been hearing this from other people, but
That's right.
there's such a huge parent presence here.
Yeah.
And I don't know about other people, but in the NICU, I think we get so obsessed about the day-to-day and the minutia and the what's in the TPN and what's. But the fact that they center every single one of these talks with a patient story just reminds everyone that yes, there's minute to minute to minute, but it's really all about the babies. And sometimes I forget that. I mean, I know other people.
It's something we discussed. I think it was either with you or with another person that we had for the advocacy series, where the importance of a story, how a story can actually change the course of something when you're presenting it either to stakeholders or legislators and so on. So, yeah, I could not agree with you more.
I think also conferences have this effect where it's just numbers and data and percentages, but for every family, it's their one baby, right? They're 100%.
And it's the exact opposite of what we're taught in medical school.
That's right.
The joke is N of one, ha ha ha,
Right.
or anecdote is not evidence, right?
Yeah.
But what anecdote is it's a tool to help remember the data. Right? It's a way of contextualizing it and humanizing it for people who aren't trained as scientists. Right? Because if you're a clinician scientist or a physician scientist, you know what the issue is, right? Because you see it every day in your clinical practice. But if you don't create that centering and you don't humanize it to someone who's a policymaker or someone else, you're never going to really get traction on whatever your issue is. And we were talking about this in our session, which is that advocating for NEC is not just an uphill battle, but can sometimes be a very steep uphill battle.
Yeah.
Right? I do work with immunizations. Everybody knows what an immunization is. After COVID, everybody has an opinion on immunization. But trying to talk to a legislator about sequelae of prematurity and what necrotizing enterocolitis is, there's a huge educational obstacle. And I think that's something that takes a large amount of time to overcome.
Yeah, you're telling us all of the obstacles, but actually you presented some very hopeful data about the success that you guys have had with donor milk in the last session, translating NEC bedside issues into policy action. So give us the scoop.
The scoop is that the American Academy of Pediatrics section on neonatal perinatal medicine toolkit exists.
That's right.
If you live, it's a recruitment talk, right? If you live in a state that doesn't cover donor milk, contact us. There's no need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Right? This toolkit exists. We can get the stakeholders in a room. We can coach you monthly. We can provide other coalition members, surgeons, gastroenterologists, rural health hospital organizations, nutritionists, March of Dimes, all together to hopefully get this over the finish line, right? Because we're not going to find, as much as I wish we could, this is not going to be solved federally. And I don't want to take swipes at Congress, but this is a Congress that is very allergic to spending any money and is even, is anaphylactic on spending money towards children, right? So
It feels that way.
God forbid.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that our states see the world a little differently.
Yeah.
So.
Even though you're an East Coast guy, you're finding yourself on the West Coast, but I have a feeling that even if you were not a speaker, you would probably be here. As Jen has eloquently mentioned this morning, what is your why for being here?
First of all, I've been sliding into the West Coast vibe. Yesterday, I went to dinner without socks. It was very California. It was very
You
exciting.
look less casual than you do on the East Coast.
Well, dude, there's no tie. I mean, it's pretty. Not that I normally wear ties.
That's what I was
I'm
gonna-
like a t-shirt and but
I know you as a t-shirt, sweatshirt kind of guy.
Of course.
And now you're wearing shirt and then pants.
And to bring it full circle, that includes my ultra soft Incubator t-shirt.
Isn't those those are good, right?
I actually have to say I really like mine.
There you go.
But that said, I mean, this aside from the fact that I woke up at 2:30 in the morning.
That's right.
You're avoiding the question too.
No, not at all. I think this meeting, like I said, really does within all the sort of constellation of conferences, right? If you think of sort of PAS, or the Pediatric Academic Societies meeting, as being sort of on one end of the spectrum, right? This meeting is very much on the other end of the spectrum. But you leave here having, there aren't as many people in the room because it's not the 5,000 people
Right.
of PS, but it's the right people in the room.
Yeah.
Right? The people who are going to walk away and not say, I'm going to do something about this, but the people who are going to walk away and say, I need to do this by Monday, this by Wednesday, people who are going to have a plan of action.
They're doers.
And I think that that's really important, absolutely. And I think for us especially, right, we still live in a world where 50% of VLBW babies are born in states that will not pay for
Donor milk.
pasteurized donor milk.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that that tipping point gets achieved and that we push forward. So.
Well, and it's just this concept about kind of attacking a problem from multiple different facets, and no one of them is going to solve everything. We really need to be working together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking home a lot because I know about as much about NEC as sort of the average person on a New York City subway, right? I mean, I'm not a neonatologist, but I'm not in the up to date on the most recent papers on probiotics or the most recent information about human milk oligosaccharides. So you can get some of that information here.
I'm not sure all subway passengers know the word oligosaccharides.
In New York, everybody's got an opinion. Come on. So, but this meeting really does a great job of balancing the science. And one of my takeaways from this meeting are the QI sessions about things that every NICU can do to reduce the burden of NEC, just based on what we already know, right? Just implementing what we already know are best practices. And I think that's also something that Jen did a very good job of talking about, right? If you're going to build a world without NEC, one of the things you need to do is optimize the tools that you already have.
Yeah, there's some things we know for sure. Human milk, skin to skin, reducing antibiotics, reducing variability.
There's a lot of talk here also about working with OBs. And I think that's really important because that's something, I mean, I've spent way too much time trying to convince OBs to talk about maternal immunizations.
You already have their ear then.
Sometimes. But I do think trying to engage obstetricians and having them talk about donor milk and human milk and mother's own milk during the course of the pregnancy is extremely important because, we show up on the scene at a moment of crisis, maybe 12 hours to 24 hours before that moment of crisis, and there's no pre-existing relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that we need to leverage the OBs to do. And that, I think, that requires a lot of work because it also requires the OBs to think a little bit differently, right? They need to think about the care ending, and their care ending.
You're asking the OBs to put themselves after the delivery has happened, everything has gone well, which they hate to do.
Right.
They don't celebrate anything until the baby is out and everything is good. So you're right, it's going to be a shift.
Right. Someone said, my mother was an OB, and she's like, our interest ends when the 5-minute APGAR.
That's right.
But it's an interesting point, right? Especially when we're talking about the procurement of human milk. Like, even for the healthy full-term infant, the breastfeeding journey takes like a lot of preparation, both mental and logistical, and it's really a commitment. And it's hard to ask families to make that commitment when they're in crisis. And tons of families do it. I don't know how they do it, but it's an interesting opportunity to have them be thinking about it during their OB visits before they come to see us. It's excellent.
That's one of the things that I'm really hoping to take away from, because I do think that we can do a better job. And I think that, unfortunately, just because of the way medicine is structured in this country, that's an invitation to Ben to start talking about France. But at some point, the NICUs are going to have to lead. We're going to have to tell the OBs that this is what we need to make sure that the babies do well. Because as much as they might think that their care ends when the 5-minute APGAR is assigned, right, the amount of attributed responsibility that they might bear only ends when the baby goes home. And sometimes not even for 21 years. So I think that avenue of discussion might help them.
Shetal,
that note.
yeah, Shetal, thank you for dropping by.
Oh my God, thank you guys. This is fantastic. I wish I would have worn my Incubator t-shirt. Then
Don't
it would
worry.
have been even awesome.
Don't worry, we'll CGI the whole thing.
Thank you. All right. Bye, guys.